Hello and welcome to the SparcStart TA Leader Series, where we talk to leaders about what's on their mind, what trends they're seeing, what keeps them up at night, or just the interesting perspectives that we all value and learn from. Today, I'm thrilled to have Lewis Brown join us. So Lewis, let me ask you to introduce yourself to the guests, please.
Thank you, Maury. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Lewis Brown Jr. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a native of Denver, Colorado, proud native of Denver, Colorado, born and raised. My role, I get the opportunity and privilege of working in talent management, talent acquisition, and diversity, equity, and inclusion for Comcast in the West Division. My background is varied. I truly do believe in the gig workforce and in career agility. So started in IT at IBM. I was there, and I'm a firm believer in work-based learning. I interned for 4 years there at IBM, stayed for a decade, and then pivoted and went into community development work and served young adults paroling and transitioning back into community, and learned a lot about the intersections of systemic oppression and the barriers that result when our systems don't work the way that they probably should for our most marginalized populations. I pivoted again and went into learning and development for a hospital system, and then with the state of Colorado, and pivoted again, Maury, and went into workforce and economic development for a national nonprofit called the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning, or CALE, where I got the opportunity to work with regions and industries about talent supply and demand pipelining and how do we solve those things. And then got the privilege to go to Zurich, North America, and work in the future of work, or creating the workforce of the future and learning and development. And now I'm here with my friends at Comcast and doing some talent management, talent acquisition, and DEI for the company.
Wow, great perspective. Yes. I found, well, when you've seen the workforce from all the different sides, you do understand that it's complicated. And we can all get frustrated that it's not better. And I think we should be frustrated it's not better. But it's not simple. It's not easy. It's not, oh, you just have to do this and everything will be fine. There's no just doing this. But you had an interesting perspective that, as my friends will know, I'm a big college basketball fan, being a Blue Devil. And you had some observations listening to the Sports Network about the portal and some correlations there. And I'm curious what you're thinking about that.
Yeah, so we're frenemies because I'm a Tar Heel fan.
Oh,
Maury,
no, you're
so
not.
sorry.
End of interview. End of interview.
So sorry. But yeah, I got the privilege of playing college basketball for 4 years in school, and it was my way of helping pay for college. It was my way of learning what it looks like to be in an adult situation where you gotta pay to play and you gotta play to pay, right? To be able to go to school. And then over the years, it was really interesting when the NIL work started happening in the name and likeness, opportunities for college athlete students to be able to come in and say, you know what, actually, I have some value now, and I want to figure out how to use that. So I was watching Sports Center, and they were just going on and on about the transfer portal and how many new athletes were going to schools and how those schools were shifting and changing, and team culture and what was happening with the face of college sports as a result of the transfer portal. And because of my work with workforce and economic development, there were a few ideas that popped in my mind. And the first thing is, I've seen this movie before, and it's happening across the labor market, related to the pandemic, related to the racial reckoning, and related to the war for talent. And the idea that popped in my mind is the agency ain't the only one with agency. Like, you have students now who are saying to themselves, I have agency. They watched professional athletes like Michael Jordan and LeBron James, and then there's others, Angel Reese, and all these other athletes who are saying, I actually recognize not only the inherent value, but the dollar value that I bring to an institution, to a program. I've done the hard work of figuring out what that is. And I'm going to use that not only for my today, but my long-term athletic development and the way that I show up. And they're making choices about where they go to school and where they play based on that understanding of their value or their agency. And I think we've seen the same thing for several years play out in the labor market during those specific years where individuals, specifically middle managers and executives, were recognizing and realizing the agency that they had. I came into IBM early in my career. I came in at the end of the golden age of the golden watch when you retired from IBM and folks were still getting golden watches and those things. And that's not the case. figurative watch, that's not the case anymore. And organizations have shifted and changed over the years. And I think professionals have realized and they're starting to live into their agency in the labor market. And there's so many implications for that. Like how does an organization stand out in org culture and provide an opportunity for somebody to come in day one, get engaged and make an impact, but also plan for a shifting and changing of a leadership team that happens more rapidly and over time? What are the implications for that? And so that's something I've just been wrestling with, and I'll probably do a longer talk one day. But that was like the first realization is the agency isn't the only one with agency anymore.
I love it. And in the same way we've watched in the basketball world that coaches have had to change their strategy because they have to rebuild their team every year, essentially. We're seeing the same thing with management. Like, how do they deal with all of this? And again, none of this is simple. I was at HR Tech last week and had a long conversation about how you balance pay equity when you've got someone who may be a very strong talent in a very expensive market. How do you deal with that? And how do you deal with the gig worker who may come in and work on a project and then go away, who has a really different relationship with you as an employer than the long-term employee who is guaranteed their health benefits, guaranteed their salary, guaranteed all of that, but yet maybe for a short intersection are doing very similar work. These are complicated problems, but yes, you're right. The portal is, I think you're right. The portal is an interesting window because it happens faster than I think managers are aware that it's going in organizations, right? So yes.
I completely agree. And what you called out about the responsibility of a head coach and an athletic, an athletic commissioner or just the whole organizational structure to be able to say, what kind of culture do we have that actually is prepared for these shifts and creates an environment where we can still succeed? We can succeed next year and compete for a national championship next year, but then we also have the ability to be relevant for years and years. So we don't spend all of our money in 2 years and go get the most expensive players. And then once they leave, we got to rebuild completely all over again. But how do we build a structure and a culture where that happens year over year over year? We get right now results and long-term results, which I think really lends to a different approach for strategic workforce planning than we probably have ever had before. We have to come as talent and HR practitioners with strategic workforce planning initiatives and ideas more than we come with transactional metrics and numbers. You know what I mean, Maury?
Yeah, right. And I mean, staying with the basketball, which is near and dear to my heart, we've seen that teams at the beginning of the season tend to not play that well because the players haven't played together before, right? We're seeing lots of shifts late in the season. And I think from an organization, if you've got gig workers and you've got new talent coming in and new ideas and all of that, that's very positive, that they don't have the relationships, they don't have the knowledge, they don't know, oh, Lewis knows that. He's the guy I ought to call for that because I'm brand new and I'm going to be gone in 3 months. So how do we as organizations take that collective wisdom? How do we build those relationships with people so there's trust and there's genuine collaboration? Not just I called you for a Zoom call, but let's see when I put our heads together here and do this. it really does require a different approach to it.
Mm.
And for so many organizations, they're not going to go entirely gig worker. They're not going to go
Mhm.
entirely salaried gold watch, but we're all ending up with hybrid, whether it's hybrid location wise or hybrid work. So what? So do we start hiring basketball coaches? Is that the
But I
answer?
mean, in all seriousness, Mari, both of us are basketball fans, and I am a big fan of design thinking. I still think it's relevant and important, not just in product management, but there are analogous examples or things that you can come alongside. It's done differently, but there's a relationship. So what would it look like for us to sit down with the head coach of a highly successful basketball team, who's done this really well, and to say, help me understand how you solve for that. Help me understand what your coaching staff looks like. Help me understand what the long-term positions are on your team, the ones that you are cool with turning over and over again. Help me understand how you've built out mentoring across your team to bring people on faster. What would it look like to stand up an analysis example of what it looks like to solve for this through the window of sports? Because they're doing it, and there's a lot of schools that are actually doing it really, really well.
I think they're still learning too, but yes, they're they're probably a step ahead of corporate,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in part because they're only dealing with 15 people. Now, granted, their staffs and all of that, but they've got a core team that's
Mm,
smaller and they can hand manage. When you've got an organization of 100,000,
mm,
that becomes a different issue. But it's still, yeah, there's probably a lot to be learned both ways there.
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We could talk about this all day, Mari.
And if we're not careful, we might. All right, so I got to ask you, who have you picked for the for basketball this year?
So is it head or heart? Because heart, I'm still a Tar Heels fan, even in their
Uh-huh.
off years. I'm a Bruins fan, for basketball. Um, but head, to the point of the conversation, I got to see what these teams look like during the
Mhm.
offseason and the choices and decisions they've made, not just at the player level, but at the coaching level. Because I think there are implications, and I think there will be some surprises in 2025 based on what we just talked about, the schools and the coaches who figured out a little bit more about how to do this.
Mhm. Yep, lots there. I can only vote with my heart. My brain does not allow any variation from that one, one
So
thing.
I'm
So
guessing you're voting for the Blue Devils then. Is that right?
that would be right.
Oh, I
Yes.
forgive you, Maury. I
Oh,
forgive.
you've got to realize, as a 6 foot woman, I am the shortest woman in my family. I have a son who is 6'9".
Oh my goodness.
To say we are basketball fans would be the understatement.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you're my friend now. So yeah.
All right, good. Before I let you go, any other thoughts on what you're seeing in the market that's like picked up your eyebrows and gone, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Um, I think we're all watching the RTO component and um the concept and idea that, if we did another analogous example to the labor market, if it's like the housing market, we went from a buyer's market to a seller's market. There are some indications that employers are able to make decisions now that, um, maybe we didn't have the flexibility to do during the pandemic and during the war for talent, like RTO. I'm interested to see how that continues to settle over time. Um, and, the relationship between new tools and technologies and how that shapes it, because I don't think the discussion is over. And I actually think it plays into the conversation we were just having. Um, yeah, there's like four other streams of thought I had, other than the agency isn't the only one with agency. One of them is show me the money, to take a Jerry Maguire quote. And I think money correlates to this piece too. So I'm interested to see as we continue to swing back and forth between buyers and sellers markets, what what that means for the decisions we make.
Well, and let me just ask you quickly, because you've done mentoring, you've done transitioning people back into the workforce.
Yeah.
I would think that experience would have you value the return to work because of the ability to model behavior and, support people through small changes. It's tough when you just see them on a Zoom call, or you're not around to understand when they're hitting a rough patch, or they're frustrated, or they're whatever, or they're having a great day and they need. The remote has certainly got its advantages, but face to face, we all show up for weddings, we all show up for funerals, we all show up at the bar. There's something to be said for physically being in the same room with people. What's your thought, with people new to the workforce? Do you think it's as important to be face to face?
Yeah, I think it's where you started, Maury. I don't think it's a one size fits all. And I think there are intricacies and details that have to be managed. There are experiences that have to be heard. And like you just said, one of them are people who are early career employees, whether that's because they're younger in their career, or they're starting over, or they're transitioning, they're career changers. And what does it look like to be able to connect, to first off get a feel for the organizational culture and what it's like to walk the halls and to shake hands and to show up in person as well as online. I think about a lot of the frontline workers who are working in positions that couldn't go virtual during the pandemic, right? Because we needed products and services on the ground. And then I also think about the reports and the lived experience that came from marginalized and underrepresented populations who said, I felt safer when I was at home because I wasn't experiencing some of the bias and the micro and macro aggressions that I experience in the office every day. And I just think it's nuanced. And I think it's important for employers to come with a listening first perspective that is as nuanced as the conversation is, and is familiar with the populations that work for us, and has the ability to move through that conversation with agility and with responsiveness to get the best results for the people who buy our products and services, but also for the people who work for us. And I don't think it's as simple as it sounds.
And I'd add to that, I'm hoping that more experienced employees who say, I know the culture, I know my job, I don't need any of that, open their hearts a little bit and understand that people need to learn from them. They may not need to go to the office every day because they get more out of it, but there's a generation behind them that needs that behavior model, that needs that coaching, that needs that everyday support that they're in a position to give. And I'm completely sympathetic. I live in New York, right? Commutes are real, they're hard, they're expensive. But we connect with people when we come together. And there's no one right answer, but I'm not hearing as much of what do I have to contribute when I go to the office, as much as the argument of, well, what do I get out of it?
That's a really, really good call out, Maury, because we are not independent, we are interdependent. So how do we create an environment where everyone can learn from each other? That's good.
We got to do that. All right. I will not go on all afternoon with you, which I could easily do, but want to thank you for the time, the thoughts, we'll hope over time your basketball sense will get better. But your TA sense is right on. So
that's awesome.
There's reason to believe. But thank you. And if people are interested in continuing the conversation, are you open to them reaching you through LinkedIn or
absolutely
reach out to just have more of this conversation? Is always nice. Well, great. Thank you, Louis. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you, Maury.